Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our third monthly RecoveryView live show. We are celebrating our 52nd edition this month that went out today. If you haven't received one in your email, you can go to RecoveryView.com to get all the articles. And we are blessed to have 3 of our authors. We have 9 new articles up on our website, and we're probably going to have a couple of our authors at least, on our next show. We have so many wonderful articles that we couldn't bring up all our authors and give everybody time to talk about their articles. But this is Recovery Month, September. It's our special edition for Recovery Month. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a special month that we call Red Ribbon Month, and there's celebrations all over the country in different cities. Normally, we would have parades and we would have different like carnivals and fun things to celebrate recovery, barbecues. And I think this year we're all doing it virtually. So this is RecoveryView's way of celebrating Recovery Month. And for those who are recovering from anything, as one of my guests, Stephen, said earlier, which is true, and I've said that many times, is that we're all recovering from something, and I call it the human condition. But a lot of the folks that celebrate Recovery Happens are recovering from drugs and alcohol, and that's the industry of which I've worked in for almost 30 years, and that's the focus on our show tonight with our wonderful guests who we have. Now, before I bring up our guests, I want to mention a few things about RecoveryView, and that so that you could come to the website and be familiar. Right now, we have free memberships because we just kind of relaunched our site with our show, although we've had the site for over 10 years. So I invite everybody to go on. Usually there's a fee for membership, so we have limited amounts of free memberships for you to go and do a profile, and it helps you with your marketing, and then you can get behind the scenes with some of our authors, and you can become an author. There's a lot of different things to do with membership. So if you go to RecoveryView.com, you can click into free membership and join our community that we've had for over 10 years. And I look forward to you doing that. We also, some of the other articles that we have Sherry Gaba, who is an LCSW, wonderful Sherry Gaba. Her article is called What is Relationship Addiction? So she's speaking about relationship addiction. We have Jerry Davis, who I would love to have on the show as well, maintaining referrals relations during COVID. So she's going to be talking about marketing in our industry and continuing with networking and so forth during the COVID times. We have Dr. Helena Riley, who's speaking about how to transform your center into a quantum. And she has a wonderful quantum physics book that she's written about. And then she also has other products that I use called the Miracle iCube. I love her work. We have, again, Dr. Well, let's see, I think that might be it for some of our premier articles. Oh, and then we have Ken Seeley. Ken Seeley, how could I forget? Ken Seeley from the Intervention Show. And Ken Seeley wrote an article about interventions and recovery and his recovery story. And he is our feature article for this month. And we're also going to ask Ken to join us next month. So that's just a little bit of about RecoveryView and where you are today. My name is Josie Herndon, and I'm the founder of RecoveryView.com. And again, we've been doing this work for the community for over 10 years now. And it's a labor of love for me to have this website and this journal with education and continuing education that we've been able to do. We put conferences on and workshops and so forth when we're able to. And now that we're not able to, we're figuring it out, and we're here live with you. Okay, so I'm going to have you help me welcome our guest tonight. We have Dr. Louise Stanger. We're going to start up as a panel, and then everybody's going to get their time down, their own 15-minute slot to speak about their articles. So Dr. Louise Stanger, she comes from the company All About Interventions, 2019 Interventionist of the Year from DB Resources and McLean Hospital, internationally renowned clinician, interventionist expert on mental health, and co-founder of All About Interventions. And her article this month is Addiction, COVID-19, and Relapse. And we're also going to learn about her books. Welcome, Louise.
Oh my God, Josie, I am so humbled and honored to be with you this evening. I think we go back 10 years in terms of, watching you grow and watching you so much. I just want to really affirm you for providing such beautiful services all the time to the community and to our profession.
Thank you, Louise, and I love you dearly. And yes, Louise is one of my speakers at my conferences because she has her doctorate degree in education, so she's one of our teachers. She's amazing. And then let's welcome Stephen Sadleir. Stephen can come on up, and he is with his company, Self-Awareness Institute, and internationally recognized Kundalini meditation master, director of the Self-Awareness Institute, and founder of the Enlightenment Network. His books are Self-Realization, Christ Enlightened, The Natural Health Handbook, and I think he has several other books, and he's got a couple movies, 3 Magic Words and Spiritual Revolution. Wow. Welcome, Stephen, to our community and our RecoveryView community. Thank you. This is your first time doing an article for our recovery community and being a guest on the show, although you've been a guest on my Drama to Dharma because you are a guru. And last time I had to explain that. That was a lot of fun. But we love it. Thank you. Okay. And then we're going to bring up Joan Borsten. And Joan is a dear friend of mine, and her company is Vidoff International. She's a filmmaker and president of Films by Jove, co-founder of Addiction Treatment Advocacy Coalition, of which I'm a board member. And her article this month is Prescription Drug Addiction, Putting Dirty Docs on Notice. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's a really great article for all of us in advocacy work as well. And then we're also going to spend time talking about her new documentary, Oleg, the Oleg Vidoff story. And we're going to also show a clip, a trailer, because that's going to be coming out to the film festivals very soon. Welcome everybody to the show, and thank you for being part of our show tonight. So I just want to thank you all for being here and helping us celebrate recovery. Okay. Now, do you guys have any questions for us about RecoveryView or anything you'd like to say together as a panel?
Thank you for putting it together.
Yeah.
A lot of people need it.
Thank you. Yeah, this is an interesting time that we have to figure things out kind of as we're going along to make sure that our audience and the public are aware of the services and the different, just resources, because people are home now and they're struggling. There's so many people struggling with depression, addiction, anxiety. And I want to make sure that they will be able to find you guys and use you as resources in all the walks of life that you have to bring to the show tonight. So,
what I think is so unique, and I don't know all the other participants, but I think trying to rise to your best possible self, Stephen really focusing a lot somewhat on somatic experiencing for self-realization, at least through Kundalini and meditation, such an important, even evidence-based tool. Joan, for not only having her own recovery center, but actually, a long time ago as a professor, I wrote a grant that said, so you want to be in pictures, the power of film to actually teach and to really help change the trajectory of lives. And, in COVID-19, just thank you, Josie, for, this new platform, whether it's Zoom or something else, to reach everybody, because we can't do the face-to-face, in person anymore. So I'm just really honored and humbled to be with all of you and get to learn from all of you tonight.
Thank you so much. There's Lynn Beal. She says, this is great. What a wonderful panel. Thank you so much, Lynn, for your comments. And there's Denise, our friend Denise. I love Denise from Malibu. And Stephen will meet Denise. You're the only one that doesn't know Denise. She's amazing. She's with Milestones Ranch. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started now. And each speaker will have 15 minutes. So we're going to bring everybody down and then I'll bring up Dr. Louise Stanger after my formal introduction, or I'll just keep you here. Well, I'll go ahead. Okay, so let's see here. Louise Stanger. I'm going to go ahead and read part of her bio. Dr. Louise Stanger is a speaker, educator, clinician, and interventionist. Uses an invitational intervention approach with complicated mental health, substance abuse, chronic pain, and process addiction clients. She gets to the heart of the matter in helping friends, and business associates with loved ones who experience substance abuse, mental health, and other problems. She is a keynote speaker and author. Her third book, Addiction in the Family, Helping Families Navigate Challenges, Emotions, and Recovery, will be available in November, and we're going to feature that in our November edition. And that's through Callisto Media and Rock Ridge Press. Help me welcome Dr. Louise Stanger.
Oh, thank you so much, Josie. It's so exciting to be here on your show and everything. And, I have to say that I am excited about the third book coming out, which I actually was under contract and I wrote during COVID. I signed a contract in March and it was done in July. And before, it really ties in nicely to what the keynote is, the topic I wrote about, because it's really the guidebook that I wish I had had. I grew up in a family beset with mental health, substance abuse, sudden death, really complex trauma. I didn't really quite understand everything until I was guided through. And so I'm excited about that particular book because it's geared for everybody.
That's wonderful.
For professionals and family.
And so good to anybody. And then your current book that you have, that you've had for out already, is the Definition Guide to Addiction Interventions, correct?
Yeah, so I was commissioned by Rutledge, which, if you know universities, and I was a university professor, that is a textbook house. And that book came out in 2018. It is called Definitive Guide to Addiction Intervention, a collective strategy. And right now I'm in negotiations, although with universities, there are a lot of budget cuts. I'm doing some continuing education for the University of Wisconsin School of Continuing Ed. And we're talking about turning that into a 12-week course if they still have the budget for it. I can't promise, but what's exciting about that is it is a textbook, and it's the first textbook in the United States, and it does pay homage to all the other people that have actually written about it.
That's great.
Although it does have my own particular bent to it.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, exciting.
That's your legacy of being a teacher that will go on to students for many generations, I hope. So.
Yeah, well, I think that at this stage of my life, if I can leave a legacy of mentorship, because, there's so many people, as you know, they are our future, the people in the behavioral health care field today. And so if we can help them along the way, then I think we've been a servant leader.
Yes.
And that's really what I'm after.
Absolutely. Now, can you talk a little bit about your article and give people an
overview? I can, and I pulled it up right now too, so I would make sure.
Great.
So when I do a lot of writing, but when we talked about recovery and we talked about this being Recovery Month, and we think about addiction and we think about COVID-19, we have to always understand that addiction is a disease just as chronic, progressive, and if left untreated, it is fatal. But it's also a disease of relapse. And if you think about it in comparison to heart disease and diabetes, and of course, if you asked anybody, what is the disease most resistant to change? And they always give the wrong answer, but it's diabetes. But it's very hard not to think about, when you look at the statistics, that about 40 to 60% of those people who recover from a substance use disorder may experience a relapse along the way. And what do we mean by relapse? We mean a return to a mind-altering substance or to a process of disorder, an action, which takes them back to where they were. So whether it was gambling, or it was disordered eating, or it was shopping, or sexually acting out, they return to that activity. However, I think, and in COVID-19, when we're all been living, I think, in a trauma bubble, it was after March 13th, suddenly our world pivoted and shifted in a cataclysmic way that we have never had before. We have something we cannot see, we cannot hear, we cannot touch, we cannot feel, but we have suddenly a disease pandemic, COVID, where we now are being invited or asked or required to stay inside, to wash our hands 20 times every time we do it, to not really interact with people, and to mask ourselves.
Yes.
So you can't really see faces.
Right.
And to stay in our same small living quarters, which may be with our family, maybe with young children and everything. So the intensity of just the living quarters is so great. And then how do you manage suddenly being invited to leave your job? Suddenly being furloughed because, or, suppose you were a service worker in a hotel, like in the desert, you no longer can be a service worker. There are no valets, there are hairdressers, all kinds of people. And so if you add that added thing, no matter who you were, no matter where you were in recovery, this COVID has added a whole new huge dimension.
Yes.
And when we think about relapse in the recovery world, we see it as a process. And relapse actually takes place before anybody ever takes a drink or a drug. It's in those sort of behaviors. And I don't know if in your business, I know you've seen it. We talk about overconfidence, right? I got this wired. I don't need your help. I don't need anything about you.
Well, what they say too is if you don't go to your meetings on a regular basis, and then they closed meetings. Now we're starting to have some meetings, but so they haven't been able to go to meetings. There's no social interaction. There's more isolation, which is never good. They say boredom's a big, and then like you said, all the trauma. It just goes on and on. All the obstacles. No gyms, no working out, depending.
Yeah. Oh. And depending on where you live. So there's all these things suddenly we're not doing. But some of the signs of relapse are overconfidence. It's sort of like being arrogant, our power, I've got this. I don't need you. I don't need to go to my meetings. I don't need to go talk to a sponsor. I don't need, I might go out with my old friends. And my old friends are really the friends that I did drugs with, or I drank with, or I shopped with, but they weren't the ones that helped support me in health and wellness. And then also you see suddenly a personality switch, angry, snapping, wanting everything right now. The other thing is I'm not telling the truth. Suddenly I am lying about what I'm doing, where I'm going, or what I'm saving. And then also oftentimes a sign of relapse might be unrealistic expectations. Sometimes when you enter into recovery, there is sort of this halo and you think that all the problems are going to go away. But you always have yourself with you, and some of those problems or some of the things that happened while you were using alcohol or other drugs, they don't go away. They have to be dealt with. The car accident, the DUI, the relationship that's gone bad. So you have to kind of do that, and you have to be somewhat humble. Another sign of relapse might be self-pity. Poor little me. The world is falling on me. And in order for me to do that, I'm just going to go take care of myself. Or just the opposite, having very unrealistic high expectations of what can happen. And so it's really important that you have healthy expectations. Emotional signs that are probably the most are isolation, anger, denial, missing therapy sessions, missing meetings, missing counseling sessions, just being short with you, yelling at mom and dad if you're a young person, yelling at your partner or your, whoever that happens to be, not paying attention to your children. Those are signs. And physical signs, I'm so tired, I have to sleep all the time. Disregard for cleanliness, not being able to do that, like having a mess, dilated pupils, obviously. But those are sort of the signs that you might have, and stress probably is the number one. And I can't think of a person in the United States who's not stressed in COVID. Even the healthiest, even when I think of my own family, 2 trips to a hospital for my husband's heart. That could send someone over, having loved ones that are ill during COVID.
It's been a lot for everybody right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're in a trauma bubble, and we're going to know more later how it's all going to unfold.
Yeah, and we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And Jim made a comment here. He said 25% of 18 to 24-year-olds are considering suicide.
Yes.
Anything about that statistic? And
well, it's really scary because we're seeing
since Corona.
more.
Yeah. He said since the COVID.
Since the coronavirus, more and more, and I don't know whether that's a result. The Gen Z has always been committing. There's a spike in suicide not only in teens. There's a spike in suicide of men over 50, and there's a spike in suicide for people that are coming out of a nursing home. If they come out of a nursing home or they're isolated.
Wow.
But for the teens, it's whether or not I'm not able to relate to my friends, or I'm being bullied. A great deal of bullying takes place on social media. A great deal of humiliation and embarrassment there, and a great deal of, I think, sometimes a little bit of contagion theory. This one's doing it, so this one's going to do it, and this one's going to do it. But we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years an increase in teen suicide. I guess the best resource I can give, is 2 best resources in the country I can give if someone is worried about that, is Teen Line, which is the largest national hotline in the country. It's located in Los Angeles, and then the Trevor Project, which is out of Los Angeles and New York, which is for LGBTQ teens. And if you have to, because they're both peer-based hotlines, and amazingly enough, if you're thinking of strategies or clinical strategies to help with that, texting is number 1. Text with your teens. Text your young people, because that is the way they will respond.
Texting. Yeah, you're cutting out right now a little bit, Louise.
I don't know why.
I'm not sure what's happening with your internet, but we went ahead and put your book cover up, The Definitive Guide to Addiction Interventions. And if you can put in the private chat the resources that you just mentioned, we can put the gap down in the ticker tape for you for the teens you mentioned, and then also the that texting is important communication with your teens, I think you said, and then with with even each other, I think just to stay somehow connected to each other right now is very important during this time.
Yeah, so, I talk about, can you hear me now better? Better?
No, I think it's actually, we're going to go, it's time now, it's 7:24, but we're going to bring you back up at the end. So maybe if you could check your internet connection, hopefully, but in the last 10 minutes, then you'll be able to bring up some of those resources. But thank you so much, Dr. Louise Stanger. You're amazing, and you're a great resource. Thank you. And now we're going to go ahead and I know Louise will come back. She's at the end. She's going to, get her internet going. I'm sure it was just that's happened to me many times. So we're just going to knock on wood that doesn't keep going. But right now we're going to go ahead and bring up Joan Borsten Joan, Louise was calling in from Marina Del Rey, and you're also in Los Angeles, right? Oh, we can't hear you. Well, we tested everything before the show. I promise everybody.
I tested it.
There you go.
The dog was barking.
Oh, you put it on mute. Okay, so you're in Los Angeles as well.
I'm in West Village, where I'm happy to say since March we've had 25 positives only and no deaths. So I don't go out very much, but I feel pretty safe here.
No, everybody in West Village must be staying home. That's great. So let me read your mini bio. Joan Borsten Vidoff was born and raised in Los Angeles. Her mother was one of the Navy's first female officers, then known as Waves. Her father had a long career in the entertainment industry. Joan graduated UC Berkeley with a degree in comprehensive comparative literature, served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Panama, and received a graduate degree from USC in bilingual education. Joan also worked as a journalist from 1974 to 1985, first for Israel's English language daily, the Jerusalem Post. She was a regular contributor to the Los Angeles Times calendar entertainment section. In 1985, while living in Rome, she met Oleg Vidov, the love of her life, by the way, known as the Robert Redford of Russia, who came to Italy to defect from the USSR. When Oleg was given political asylum by the US government, Joan followed him to Los Angeles. They married several years later, and we're going to learn more about that because here it talks about it. In 1988, when with Oleg, she formed Films by Jove, Inc., the California-based film production and distribution company, which 4 years later, in 1992, acquired worldwide rights, excluding the former USSR, to most of the award-winning animation library of Moscow's, and I know I'm going to say this wrong, but it's Soyuz Multifilm Studio. Studio, approximately 1,200 films, and that was a big journey for you. I know we talked about that. Films by Jove financed digital restoration and marketing of more than 40 hours of animated films produced from 1936 to 1991. And now let's see, I'm going to come down to some of this. So that is amazing. So she has such a rich history in the film industry as well, but we are honored to have her in our industry. Joan and Oleg co-founded Malibu Beach Recovery Center in 2007, of which I was actually one of her consultants. It was such an honor for me to meet her at that time. She had never worked in our industry before. And Joan served as CEO until the clinic was sold to a medical investment arm of Wells Fargo. And then during those years, she became, since then, California addiction advocacy for the industry. And she has spent most of her focus on calling the attention of regulators and elected officials to the need to curb dirty doctors who became wealthy, turning those with pain and other illnesses into prescription drug addicts. So that's been her life's work. And then in 2016, she co-founded the Addiction Treatment Advocacy Coalition. She invited me to be a board member, of which I am, and we do wonderful work there. And now she is executive director, and I'm sure co-founder or has a part in that, for the Summit Estates and Recovery Center located in the Silicon Valley. Help me welcome Joan. Joan, you're so amazing. I've always told you that I'm like the head of your fan club because I watch you. I've been, since I met you, you do the most amazing things. And now you have your documentary coming out with Oleg's story. So thank you so much for everything that you've done to contribute. And it's amazing that you continue to work in our field this long. And what has kept you working in our field this long?
When I got into this field quite by mistake, because neither Oleg or I were alcoholics or addicts, but we did this to help our in-laws. And then the economy crashed, got a divorce. Suddenly we owned this business we knew nothing about. And I used to go to
that. I was there. It was like, you said, what should I do? I said, just keep going.
So I used to go to these meetings, and they'd go around the table and everybody would say, oh, I have 10 years, I have 15 years. And then they'd come to me and I've got, so I tried to think, like, how can I, become a part of this industry? And I thought, you know what, I grew up with a lot of people who became politicians. So I'm going to go to Sacramento and Washington, D.C., and I'm going to advocate on behalf of this community, which really needs help.
Yes, we did.
So one of my first causes was prescription drug addiction, because I didn't even know it existed. And suddenly I started getting clients who had been addicted by their doctors. And I thought, okay, did they want the pills? Yes. But was the doctor writing the prescription? Yes. And I mean, it were horrible cases. So I just started like learning everything that I could. And then State Senator Mark DeSaulnier had this bill called Cures. And the idea was that he was going to fund restoration of this morbid California database, so that if you walked into a doctor's office and you asked for, a Schedule II drug because of a pain, he could see right away that you'd been to another doctor asking for it the day before. Or the pharmacist could see that you had another prescription that you'd already filled.
Right.
So,
Never had that before. There was no accountability or regulation around that.
So I thought that was a really good cause. And then I had another idea, and I started bringing prescription drug alumni to Sacramento to testify. And no, it made a big impact because, all these very bored legislators are sitting there going, oh, yeah, right. And then somebody says, if cures had existed, I couldn't have become an addict. And they sort of go, wow. And when there were committee meetings, I used to have everybody get on the phone and call some of the people in the committee, the legislators, and say, hey, I want you to vote yes on this.
Right.
In the end, and trust me, we were just a little tiny part of the success, but it passed. So that was very exciting.
Yes.
And then I kind of moved into another thing that I'm still on, which is regulating the unregulated insurance companies. Because between how they pay and how they authorize, and I could just go on and on. So I sued a bunch of times when I was still Malibu Beach Recovery Center, and I learned a lot about their tricks.
Right.
They say even in the court. And one of my big things was in 2009, United Healthcare had a database, a corrupt database called Ingenix. And they were underpaying all of the out-of-network providers. And so this judge in New Jersey was hearing a case about Ingenix involving HealthNet, which became another one of my issues. And when she settled the case for like almost the biggest amount of money that an ERISA case had ever been settled, she wrote someone better take a look at this database. And sure enough, the Attorney General of New York, Andrew Cuomo, opened an investigation. And a year later, he went after them. He sued them all the insurance companies that were using this corrupt database that belonged to United Healthcare. And he said that millions of New Yorkers had been bilked out of millions of dollars.
Right.
Had to stop. And then the Senate opened an investigation under Rockefeller. And they said, well, actually, millions of Americans have been bilked out of billions of dollars. Yeah. And so United Healthcare had to rename Ingenix as Optum.
Oh, that's right. That's the history there. Wow.
As far as I know, they weren't using the database again. They also created the money that Cuomo got from all of them. He used to create Fair Health, which benchmarks out-of-network treatment and how much it really should cost if it's based on usual and customary. But anyway, so that was 2009-10. And at the end of 2014, Cigna and United Healthcare rented an Ingenix, but this time it was called Viant.
Right.
And suddenly,
we still have Viant.
Underpaying everyone, and they were just very, this is the way we do things. And they would write letters and say, because this patient has really limited benefits, and I would say it's an Apple PPO plan. What limited benefits?
Right, and you brought it to the attention of the Apple companies and the.
But I couldn't get anywhere. No, for 3 years, nobody would listen to me. And the only one who really cared was Dave Jones, who was the insurance commissioner, but he had no authority over ERISA.
Right.
And then we had the 2018 election, and the congressional representative of Summit, just by chance became the head of the committee, one of the two committees that oversees ERISA. So I thought, okay, this is my chance.
Yes.
And so I actually went up and down California. We sent out so in the meantime, I had co-founded the Addiction Treatment Advocacy Coalition, bringing Josie on as a board member as well.
Yes.
And so we started to do some really good work. So we sent out one of the many questionnaires we sent out, and we said, who's having a Viant problem? And all of 25 people answered, and we said, okay, who represents you in the Congress? So pretty soon I had this whole list of from the California delegation who had people in their district who were being impacted. And suddenly we got a call from the Department of Labor.
Right.
He said, what is this? What are you making all this noise about? So we told them, and they said, oh, thank you very much. And then suddenly we got another call, and it had moved from whoever we talked to the investigations unit.
Right.
So, a lower level person on the investigations unit asked us to said that listen to the story, and then she brought in the top guns. And I think that there were like 12 hours of testimony, not just from Summit, but also from one of the other board members who does billing for many companies.
Right.
And they opened an investigation, which
That's
is still
wonderful. But see, everything that this is from your life's work, and you brought your work and your, I don't know what to call it, but just you to our industry, and your experience, your investigative background, you just won't let, just like your film, getting the films that you didn't think you'd be able to get from Russia. I mean, all those things. And now you're finished with your husband's documentary, started out as a book. So, I mean, when you put your intentions out, and you're helping our field so much, the recovery industry, I don't think they realize, because we've been able to actually stay open. Treatment centers are able to stay open and service clients because you've been helping to hold those big insurance companies accountable, that normally who would even, like you said, listen, but you've helped all of us figure out how to advocate for ourselves. And I just want to thank you for that. That's a big part of, celebrating September Recovery Month, because now we have more treatment centers than ever. And I just, want to thank you for that. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your article?
Thank you to you and to Candy Finnegan, because when I used to go, oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
Oh yeah.
Just go on, keep going.
Yes, I know. Yeah, we would. We were like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. We can't, but you can, and we will. We'll be the wind beneath your wings, Candy and I.
I want to say that the article that I wrote for you was back in the day when we started with the prescription chasing dirty doctors. Mm-hmm. Dr. Duarte, who had like in his office more oxycodone than everybody in the United States combined.
Wow.
And a money counting thing on his desk.
Oh.
And, when they finally took him down, he got 4 years. That was all he got, and all these people were dead. So a lot of people really started like campaigning individually and together. And now there's a program on the Oxygen Channel, and it's episode 5 of License to Kill. Yes. And the reason that it's important is that since this Dr. Healy only got 4 years for what he did, there was another doctor named Lisa Seng in Rowland Heights who killed a lot of people.
I watched the show yesterday. It was incredible. Thank God.
Got 30 years. And that's because everybody worked.
Yes.
Everybody did their own thing to try to bring this to the attention of the state, of the Congress, of everybody. And suddenly the perception changed. And it wasn't just that the bad addicts were finding a new way to get drugs.
Right.
It was people were becoming multimillionaires by selling these drugs under the table.
That's right. The doctors were right. It's amazing.
I thought it was an important thing for everybody who's in this industry to look at. Mm-hmm. It shows you that working together, we can affect change.
Absolutely. And you definitely have taught me that, because I never would have, it was always, because I've been working in this field for 30 years, and I know by watching it, it's happened before where it closed down, they stopped doing insurance, and that just shut down a bunch of centers back in the 90s. And I saw it coming again. So I definitely, this time I was very young back then, and I was just kind of watching it. And now I knew from my experience that I could, and especially after meeting you and talking to you, that I could actually make a difference. So for those of us, just like what Louise was saying about being mentors, for those of us who have been doing this work for a long time, we can actually, do something about change, whatever changes we need to in our industry and in the world. Now I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Oh, go ahead.
The motto of the Addiction Treatment Advocacy Coalition is numbers.
Is what?
Strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers, absolutely. It is strength in numbers, because we were all like herding cats everywhere before, and we still are, but we are strength in numbers. Now we're going to show the preview here, the clip from your new movie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
His looks were from the other universe.
Видов был там сексуальным символом советского, российского кино.
Добрый путь вам, господа, по морю, по океану.
Красивый, но не понимающий, что он красив.
dream of each little girl, old woman, middle-aged woman.
В него влюблены были все. Его просто обожали.
У него было то, что ни у кого другого не было. На него заглядеться можно было.
Что касалось личных отношений, очень контролировалось, и все было под запретом. Все личное было под подозрением.
They made him sign a paper that he was not going to sleep with any women in the Western world.
В Советском Союзе не любили, когда кто-то выделяется.
И на него произвело сильное впечатление, он был очарован. Но потом со временем он понял, что это просто что-то страшное. Она хотела какие-то богатства, которых он не мог ей предоставить.
А учитывая, что она была воспитанницей семьи Брежнева и подругой Гали Брежнева, то начались казусы.
Он меня схватил за руку и говорит: я в опасной ситуации, за мной следят, меня могут убить.
If he were given a chance to accept for an invitation, there should have been another story of his life.
Oleg had something very pure, something innocent. He loved his country, he loved his people.
Олег был из той категории советских людей. Эти люди устали от вранья, эти люди устали от тоталитаризма.
He said, I feel as if I'm dying every day. Political structures from Russia were pressuring government in Yugoslavia to actually refuse Oleg to stay in Yugoslavia.
Его занесла тогда нелегкая в этот мир, и как он выбрался оттуда.
Oleg was scared that somebody would actually take him back or assassinate him.
Ощущение какой-то грозы наступающей, которая произошла.
There you go.
Oh, that's wonderful. There's your beautiful husband, Joan. Now, we lost Oleg 2 years ago, was it? 3 years ago already. I'm so sorry. And I know that that's what inspired you to finish his memoirs and then turn it into the film. And you were part of that journey with him from pretty much the beginning of his.
I met him in Rome when he came to defect.
When he came to defect, yeah.
I think we could say my husband was addicted to freedom.
He was addicted to freedom. He sure was. Thank you so much for sharing with us this beautiful clip. You know, it's the first time that we were able to see that, and we look forward to watching the full documentary, and you can let us know through RecoveryView. I'll keep all of our readers posted. So when whenever it comes out, I know you're going to be going to film festivals with it, and just let us know, and we'll keep articles going so that our audience can participate and watch and then you're also going to finish the book, because you said that you're working on the book as well. And actually it went kind of back. Can you just tell quickly how that happened? And then we're going to go on to our next.
He left this mostly completed autobiography, but when I went to translate it, it wasn't really that long. And I thought that's really strange, because he said it, he basically finished it. But my husband, didn't know he didn't think through his fingers like most of us do. And so eventually we found everything handwritten stored in bags in the garage.
Wow.
And so I had to find people to type the Russian, and then I sent it to the great translator, and suddenly, it was fantastic. We had this great book.
And some of that went into the documentary.
A lot of it did.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a beautiful tribute to your beautiful husband and your life together. And thank you so much. And we're going to bring you back on at the end. And if anybody has questions for Joan, we might have time for that for the last couple minutes. But now we're going to go ahead and bring up our next guest. And let's see, where is his? Stephen Sadleir. Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Let's see. Okay, there you are. I was like, are you there? Okay. And thank you for writing an article. You're pretty much new to our recovery community, as I mentioned earlier, because everything you do has been more on a global level. And so it helps many humans with your spiritual work that you do, self-realization and your health and wellness and your retreats. So if you can talk a little bit more about your work that you do and how can that help us as humans that are in recovery?
Well, it's really all about learning who you are and why you were born. And so there's a science to this. I teach the science of the self. Self-awareness is the study of who you are, and who you are is at one level a biological being, but even that is made up of energy. The mass is energy, the energy in your nervous system and chi and thought, brainwave patterns. We have both a life force energy and an innate intelligence. We have a part of us that is conscious of what the mind is doing. So there's what the mind is doing, and another part of us is if it's the witness or observer of our computer, which is the brain. And so a lot of what I teach people is how the brain works, how to develop new thought patterns. You look at addictions as an example, and we all are addicted to something, right?
Yes, definitely.
It's a matter of mental programming, emotional responses, behavior patterns, and induced. It's like there's a mechanism in the biology and its operating system that we get downloaded, and a lot of people get stuck in it. They get stuck in their old idea of who they thought they were, maybe. And what's happening now all over the world is that there's an awakening occurring. People are beginning to realize there's something to be realized. There's more to themselves than just their programming, their desires and aversions or addictions or whatever. There's more to you than being an alcoholic or being this, that, or the other, whatever that thing is. So what I like to show people, and what I want to share here, whatever your tests and challenges are, there's a way, that's an energy too, the way you respond to it, positive, negative. Are you in fear, anger? Are you in a reactive mind mode? What's your state? So a lot of the work is being able to step back from the mechanism of mental activity, emotions, maybe unhealthy behavior patterns too. And before you engage all that, you step back and you can become the observer, the screenwriter of your own play. You can get back in the director of the show in your life and say, okay, what's going on here? And in that moment, you can shift energy. So a big part of my work is getting people in touch with their energy and what state they're in. And I've referred quite a lot in my article to Dr. Hawkins and the work I did with him, wrote Power versus Force, and used the model of there being a scale of consciousness. In other words, in a very gross sense, we have a sense of when we're really upset, we're really angry, or fearful, or if we're really happy and feeling exalted. We have, at least in a broad sense of emotion, where we might be on this scale. And it's actually a vibrational thing, isn't it?
Yes.
You can be a little upset or just can't function anymore, So the question is, if your spine is an antenna and you are an instrument for your own indwelling spirit to shine through you, as an example, how can you get plugged into that inner knowing and that inner peace and that inner direction and that inner light, so you're not caught in your programming, your fear, your anger, your addiction programming, your emotional responses, and how your body responds to how you feel. Maybe it's the dopamine or the adrenaline or some brain chemical you don't even know, but something's taken over. But if you can learn to control, if you can learn to gain mastery over your mind, then you simply you identify what's not working and replace the old pattern with a new one. And if there's still some ghost pattern back there, so what? It's like having an LP in the closet. You just don't play it. And if it plays, you don't pay attention to it. All of a sudden, it's not an issue anymore. You transcend your your mind-body programming.
Well, that's exactly what recovery is all about. And even the 12-step recovery, you know, it's a bridge. I think there's so many different modalities, and the bottom line is that spiritual evolution and kind of getting rid of your old stories. You know, even the 4 agreements with, you know, a lot of treatment centers use 4 agreements and different modalities like that to get rid of that old story and evolve into who you are, your spiritual self. That's a lot of work that we do. Because there's a lot of conscious recovery workbooks out there with TJ Woodward, things like that, and all our clients are just eating it up. I mean, they love it. Like you said, there's a big awakening happening. And so people realize that, you know, that's a huge part of recovery. As a matter of fact, I think those are the ones, because I've done through the years of this, I've done a lot of research and had many clients. So I would do, you know, ask and go back and see how things were going. And so the ones with long-term recovery, I'd ask, well, what made the difference? And it was always spiritual every single time. They had a spiritual awakening. It was a spiritual moment. You know, when they have that long-term recovery, then they'll remember somebody, you know, or something that happened. So I definitely can see where your work could fit into certainly the recovery industry. How would we be able to find you and your work if we wanted to do that? I know we have some of your webs. Is it the StephenSadleir.com and
that, or selfawareness.com?
Oh, selfawareness.com. Okay, so we have
my main website, and I also have Enlightenment Radio. I'm on dozens of podcasts. I'm on iHeart, iTunes, Spotify.
Oh, good. So we could go to Enlightenment Radio and find you, or there you go.
24/7 all over the world.
Oh, that's amazing.
Millions of people finally. So I'm really happy to hear it.
That's great. Of course.
The thing that everybody can do, everyone's listening. I wanted to give them like an experience and a tool before we go. So the first thing I wanted to do, you know, I talk about energy. We're all energy. Mass is energy. Thought is energy. Emotions are energy. But let's test that. I would like to invite everyone watching to bring their hands up like this and just kind of play with a feeling between your hands. And so, like there was a ball. You're going to feel heat. You're going to feel the weight, gravity. You're going to feel pressure on your skin. But I want to see if you can feel like the electromagnetism that's naturally coursing through your body. And in fact, we know science can discern the amount of biomagnetism that you're conducting. It comes in at different gradients. Usually we're around 33 hertz, by the way. You bring your hands back down. And so a lot of what I like to do, well, it's kind of to validate, okay, at least for now.
Then you feel the energy and throw it,
Yeah, the idea is, okay, we're conducting life. Everything alive conducts life. It has a current. And a current you can think of as like a wire. It goes from one end to the other, right? But there's a field around the wire. In the same way, we have a current going up our spine. It's going from the negative pole to the positive, and then it comes around. There's a field around our body. So a lot of what we can do, and what I want to start teaching here, is how you can connect with your own life current to the source of life itself within you that is you. So there's no dogma in that. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, you're alive.
Right.
Get into your alignment, get into your biorhythm, get into your natural current, instead of your mind going floating around over here somewhere because it's been agitated or excited by a chemical or whatever the circumstances, the sex or the excitement, wherever the addiction phenomena is.
Right.
Kind of like have another place to put your energy and then get aligned. You go, oh, wow, this is good. I like it here. I like it in this place. So one of the ways we can do that is through like that third eye meditation. People always say, well, what's with this third eye? It sounds occult or something. Why does Buddha have a diamond between his eyebrows? Or Shiva sit and he's looking? What's that about? Well, you got a pituitary gland. It turns out it's an endocrine response. And you can slow down your brainwave frequencies and go into a really deep state and get really connected and quiet. Like, here it is. Here's the source. Here's where I go for my answers. Not because Guru Steve told me, but he gave me a tool to help me go within to find that.
Yes.
Make that connection. You already have the connection, but to really deepen the connection, maybe, but help it go deeper.
Like you said, realize the connection. Realize
it. And that's the first step, because just like you were saying there, I think we all touched on in our independent discussions that there's an awakening occurring. People are beginning to realize, there's a lot of change. And now with COVID, it's really waking people up, getting people to question more.
Right.
What I call pandemic, or question the
Right.
The craziness in life, all this sit home and wear a mask and what's all that about? So what's happening because of the tumult, the upshot to it all, maybe I'm trying to put a spin on it so we can maybe see the opportunity presenting itself. Just like an addiction is sometimes the very thing that gets you on the spiritual path. It's something that brought you down and crushed you. And all of a sudden you had to finally say, God, help me. Or family, neighbors, help me.
Right.
You know,
help me.
Someone help me. And you were humbled, like Dr. Louise was saying, you know, and there was this idea of being open to receive.
Yes.
Too. And what happens is an awakening begins to occur. Yeah. So your addiction can actually kind of be the thing that jettisons you into a more spiritual life and to connect at a deeper level and maybe appreciate the challenges you've been given too.
And this situation that we're going through, or this time, is doing that for many people as well. So thank you for that reminder. And I'm going to have Debbie pull everybody back up the panel. Can you believe it's already 7:56?
Yeah.
The hour has just gone by so quickly.
Well, and we'll do it another time. That's all right.
Well, I wanted to bring everybody up to, and did you want to do did you still want to do a little meditation together, or?
It feels kind of rushed.
Yeah. You know, we're going to do it 5 minutes, but we can have everybody go to yours and we'll do it another time. We're going to bring you back when we have more time. I know that Joan said they used to say that they heard voices in their head and the only things that stilled the voices were drugs and yoga. And yoga obviously was healthier. But that's what the clients would say, either drugs or yoga. So yoga definitely can help with what you were saying to, you know, the synapses in your brain or whatever's happening, you know, to give that rush of feeling that people get with drugs. I mean, I think that's an interesting, you know, difference, drugs or yoga. And that's and you do yoga, so that's great, because that is definitely self-realization. Well, I wanted to give everybody one more chance to say something to our audience before we go. We've got a couple minutes. Anything that you'd like to share?
I'd like to say about the Addiction Treatment Advocacy Coalition that every Thursday we have a meeting called Underpayments. And there must be about 40 or 50 billers and heads of facilities who join us. And we are pretty much able to catch in real time all the new tricks that the insurance companies are up to.
Yes.
We've actually learned and are somewhat successful in stopping them in their tracks. So if you're not a member, I think Josie can tell you, it's like one of the best things that ATTACK has going for it, and I urge you to join and get on the committee.
And it's atac.org, attack.org, and we are doing wonderful work. Anything, Dr. Louise Stanger, that you'd like to say?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I'm humbled to be with Joan and Stephen and be able to hear just little tidbits of them. I think Stephen and I would probably, agree that there's always something greater than ourselves. And if we can tap into what is greater than ourselves, I guess that's the second, came to believe there's a power greater than ourselves, which is the second step of AA or Al-Anon or anything that we can. I do believe that in this pandemic, in COVID, everybody has the opportunity to rewrite their story, to rise to their best possible self. And I think that there are so many different tools and strategies that recovery gives us that combines the notion of spirituality, that combines thought, feelings, and actions. And whether I'm just honored to be with you tonight and feel hopeful.
Yes.
Hopeful that whether we're taking political action, whether we're taking self-action, whether we're taking a group action, and certainly Josie, thank you for taking the lead for all these years and making a difference and allowing everybody's voice to be heard.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor for me to have you as my panelist, and we'll have you back again. And again, Stephen, thank you for, ending this. I know that we're all going to be sleeping peacefully, thinking about your beautiful words that you gave us, and we can go over to your self-awareness now. And I'm sure if somebody wants to go and find a meditation, will they be able to find one there? To your website?
I'm ready.
Meditation.
Just Google Enlightenment Radio.
Enlightenment Radio. Why do I keep forgetting? It's so easy. Enlightenment Radio, and we will find him. Millions of people have found him, he says. So I know it'll be easy. We'll be one of those many. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our sponsor, ATS. We usually have a commercial, but we're not going to have time tonight. But Addiction Therapeutic Services, that's the treatment center that my husband Jim and I own. So if you go to ATSIOP.com or Addiction Therapeutic Services, actually we changed it to Advanced Therapeutic Services because we do mental health now as well as addiction. So I just want to thank ATS for helping us put this program together financially. And thank you all for being here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you again. And I hope that our audience will go to RecoveryView.com, join the free membership, and read the complete articles of these wonderful people. And you can go and click on to their article and email them if you have further questions as well. So just go to RecoveryView.com and find everybody. Thank you so much. Blessings, everybody.